The number one key to immediately end an argument is so obvious, you're going to think that I'm joking. Is to agree with the other person you're disagreeing with. The second you agree with somebody, they tend to mirror you back and the argument ends. And here's the amazing thing. You can agree with the other person, find that common ground, without ever backing down on your main point. Rather than continuing to ratchet up an argument by disagreeing on everything, which is what people typically do when in conflict, there are always many small points that you can agree on with the other person. It immediately transforms the entire tone of the conversation, which we talked about in the previous video. I'll provide a link for you to watch that at the end of this video. Here, we continue where we left off in our review of that explosive race-related argument that erupted between Good Morning Britain's television host Piers Morgan and his co-host Alex Beresford. The argument was regarding Megan Markle and Prince Harry's shocker of an interview with Oprah. We used the second part of that heated argument between Piers and Alex to show you 5 additional keys to resolve nearly any conflict by the simple principle of creating mirrors of agreement rather than of disagreement.
There is a conversation. Hold up.
There are several conversations.
There's a
about
conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh.
In most things in human relations, things are not so clear-cut. It's the whole reason for the 5 phases is because it allows you to play that very sensitive ground and come out the better for it.
Do you think it's racist? It's a legitimate question many people have asked. Is it racist, do you think, if for argument's sake it was William or Charles? Let's not put a name to this person. We don't know. And part of the problem, I know you agree with me about this, it'd be easier if they just said who it was.
Right.
Right? I'll come to that. But is there a difference? If it was said, perhaps in all innocence, right, and they just said, oh, what colour baby might you have, without any suggestion of it being a concern or a worry if it had darker skin, would that in itself, would just the question be racist?
That in itself is fine, but you have to think about how it feels on the receiving end, because what we're speculating is as to how that message...
Yeah, I don't know how it was communicated.
Right,
what I would say to you is, if it was done as a worry or concern...
We also have to take into consideration how it felt. The other thing that we also have to think about, and I have publicly said this on Twitter, Piers, I agree with you now that I feel that they should have named the person, because all it's led to is all of us asking loads of questions.
So what did he just do? That was very nice.
Speak the other truth.
Yes. Again, and of all the different phases that I see speaking the other's truth, people who are artful, or when I watch really well-written television shows or movies, that is the biggest and the most powerful technique from the 5 phases that I see being used all the time.
You and I have a personal relationship that's not based on color. And to even go down this direction is wrong, Mr. Chairman.
First of all, I want to thank the gentleman for what you have stated. If there's anyone who is sensitive with regard to race, it's me. Son of former sharecroppers that were basically slaves. So I get it.
When somebody wants to align with somebody, or they're attempting to bridge that gap, speaking the other's truth, it's the thing to do. And in American politics, unfortunately, it's what caused so much division to the point of insurrection is it's the exact opposite. Rather than speaking the other's truth, there's absolutely derision for what the other side's truth is. And that's how America got to such a horrific point, to the point of literally an insurrection occurring.
And I personally am looking at the royal family as to which one could
Who's the racist, yeah.
Who's the racist? But again, we have to also just take a step back.
Piers Morgan said what the gentleman on the right said. Again, so for this moment at least, they're in alignment because he was gracious enough to say that he agreed with Piers. Piers mirrored him back. And if they were able to keep that up, this would have had a much happier ending. But for those who haven't seen the news, I'll show you what happened at the very end.
Do you know how much courage it takes to actually speak about racism, to actually call it out. Because I've been in situations where I haven't called out every single bit of racism that's happened to me based on how I've been treated or how it was handled in the past.
Because you're worried about a backlash.
And you're also worried about a backlash.
See, what did that lady do? She's marvelous, that lady. She doesn't get a chance to speak much because she keeps getting talked over. But she's marvelous. Again, what phase? She says, because you're afraid of a backlash, what is she doing? She's speaking his truth.
Yeah.
It calms him down. It calms all of us down when we feel like we're being recognized, when we feel that somebody can understand where we're coming from.
And there will be people that will treat Harry and Meghan differently because they've spoken out.
Okay.
But this is the whole thing. We've got to get comfortable talking about the uncomfortable. And that's why it's important for me and you to have this conversation.
Right, but let's just not make it personal.
I love that statement. We've got to become comfortable in talking about the uncomfortable. Erin, I don't think Erin's on the call tonight. Erin sent me a book about something called Having Impossible Conversations. And she sent it to me because it was very similar to the title of my newsletter, basically how to handle impossible people. And so this book was written by two gentlemen with a lot of experience, and it literally is the same thing as the 5 phases. They just stated in a different way. But bridging the gap in a situation that appears impossible on the surface to bridge, well, this is how the impossible becomes possible, is when you use each of these 5 phases. Neither one of them are being very good at holding the space. They're both so charged up. And we've all been there before. We know how hard it is to hold your tongue. So neither one of them are being very good about holding the space. I give them both maybe a C as far as speaking the other person's truth. I give Piers Morgan actually a B+ to an A as far as asking questions of grace. But as far as tone goes, I put him back down to the C or the D level, and both of them at the C or the D level. Again, it's not to blame anybody. Gosh, if I was African American, or in his case, African British, and I had gone through the type of prejudice that most Black people go through, I know that I certainly would be highly charged as well. It really takes extraordinary practice, which is the reason that we have this talk every week, extraordinary consciousness, and an extraordinary soul on top of that to maintain that high level of peace in your soul throughout something as charged as this.
I listened very carefully to Ms. Salih, and I think, and I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but I think she said that she was not calling you a racist. And I thought that we could clarify that. Because you, Mr. Meadows, you know, and of all the people on this committee, I've said it and got in trouble for it, that you're one of my best friends. I know that shocks a lot of people.
And likewise, Mr. Chairman.
But you are. And I could see and feel your pain. I feel it. And so, and I don't think Ms. Salih intended to cause you that.